Hello, and welcome to the Fight Night Picks Recap Show. I'm John Franklin. This week on the show, we discuss all the fights from UFC Fight Night, Figueiredo versus Benavidez 2. Let's bring in our man Cameron Romanik. Cam, obviously the headline fight, and we'll get to it in a second, was the big fight, but we'll do what we do all the time with this and just talk about this card on paper in terms of, they don't fight fights on paper, but when you first saw this card in its complete fruition and it was completely mapped out and you're doing your preparation for it, how excited were you for it? What were the things you were looking for coming in?
Right away, I was really excited. I think this is probably the highest skill level, like as a whole, highest like just overall talent of the three fight nights on Fight Island. I thought that a lot of these fighters are really good and have a ton of potential, and it definitely delivered.
I agree. That main card especially, I mean, that thing was top to bottom. Could be, a card that we look back someday, and we'll get to this later, but could be a card we look back someday and say, look at all these champions that fought on this main card. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. Well, Cam, the headliner was a huge fight for legacy with a win. Joseph Benavidez gets the title that has eluded him for so long. The title eluding him has come to define him. Figueiredo, he's trying to repeat, and at the same time avenge his victory the first time these two met, which was a first-round victory, but it came after Figueiredo missed weight. So he was the uncrowned champion until tonight when, I mean, he threw Joe Benavidez a proper ass whooping and dominated throughout. Jiu-jitsu never really got started. All right, from a technical standpoint, other than Benavidez just being massively overwhelmed, what else did you see? I mean, is there things that Benavidez could clean up, or is Deiveson Figueiredo prepared to go on a really big run here at 25?
Yeah, I just don't see a path to victory for Joseph Benavidez in that kind of fight. With that kind of power that Figueiredo has, and the way he can just stand in the center of the octagon and wait for you, and then unleash his power and drop you almost instantly, it's scary. It's very scary at that division, 100%. I think also what you have to take into account is the fact that Benavidez got knocked out not that long ago and jumps back in to fight with his brain after getting knocked out a couple months ago, jumps right back in with the same guy and pretty much gets dropped with every punch. I think it was what was always going to happen for Figueiredo after this fight got rebooked so soon. Benavidez might have had a chance if he took a lot of time off to heal and get better before he jumps right back into a title shot with a guy who can knock pretty much anyone out the division.
Yeah, so I want to talk about Figueiredo for a second because while I do think that it's weird. Sometimes with these Brazilian fighters, you'll see a guy and you're like, okay, this guy looks like the next Jose Aldo. Mm-hmm. And then you'll see a fighter and you go, well, he could be the next Renan Barão. Because when I saw Renan Barão fight, the way that he handled Uriah Faber, he just was that impressive guy. And then TJ Dillashaw comes along and, puts all that to rest. But then we find out that, Dillashaw might have been using performance-enhancing drugs. So, and that might have just derailed Barão in a way that he could never recover from. There's a lot in what I just said, but so when we look at Figueiredo, I mean, does he just have Benavidez's number, or do you see a different, more complete skill set? Because one of the things they said, and it was interesting they said this on the commentary because it was immediately what I thought. Someone said something along the lines of, this guy's a real problem at 25. And someone else said, well, he might be a real problem at 35. So there's a lot to unpack here in terms of did Cejudo leave too early? Now there's this guy. What do you think here? Do you think he's got Benavidez's number, or do you think there's more to him?
I think there's more to him. I think both. I think he has Benavidez's number both, and there's a lot to him. I think he can defend his belt. I mean, it depends on the matchups at flyweight, of course, but I am excited for him to defend his belt. I think that could be very interesting. And as for him moving up to 35, I think he's a little too small. I don't see Petr Yan having trouble with someone who's smaller than him. Just simple as that, really. And I think Moreno would be next in line for 125-pound belt, and I think that'd be a super interesting fight. I think Moreno is
Thanks for having me as a part of the show at Craig Allen FNP. And listen, I'm really looking forward to this. We've got a great partnership that we've struck with Ringside Beer. Some awesome merch over on their site. They've got some really cool tap handles. I got the MMA glove tap handle. I got the boxing glove tap handle for their lagers. And listen, I couldn't believe that this was the introductory offer that they have to just our viewers with Fight Night Picks. But if you use the promo code FNP at checkout, ringsidebeerstore.com, you get 25% off your order. They've got some awesome merch over there. They want you to get in the ring with Ringside Beer. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff with those guys, so make sure you check them out, ringsidebeerstore.com. And as always, like we like to say with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.
So when we talk about the business versus the sport, and it comes back a lot of this. Do you think that sometimes the UFC needs to just chill and say, all right, we have this champion. No, we don't have a bunch of big name challengers for him, but we have a lot of good challengers for him. So let's just let this division play itself out. Or do you think, maybe not what they should do, but do you think that there's going to be a situation where they just keep making overtures towards Henry Cejudo in the media and they're trying to pull him back because Figueiredo and Cejudo might be a big fight? What do you think they should do here? Should they just kind of just say, listen, we've been trying to kill this division for years. We finally got a guy that might have the potential to be a star. Just let this kid cook. What's the play here?
I mean, what I'd like to see is just let him defend the belt, let him keep fighting guys in the division. That would be ideal. But it seems like the UFC just has an obsession with making super fights, and that's kind of how they love to book their champions. They love their champions to just move up, move down, get 2 belts, have guys come back from retirement. It's kind of exhausting on the UFC's part. And I think I'm not even sure Cejudo would want to cut the weight to get back to 125 pounds to fight Figueiredo. I don't think that's a big enough fight for him. And obviously Figueiredo moving up to bantamweight like Cejudo did will be interesting. But I think he needs to defend the belt a few times at flyweight for sure.
You know, it's funny. The situation with Cejudo is interesting because, you know, if you can't promote a guy properly, and we're talking about Figueiredo here, it's kind of like when you're watching hockey. You know, the thing I used to tell my buddies that's most impressed about hockey is the sport's already impressive enough if they're in sneakers, but they're doing everything on skates, and we're so used to it that we just think that it's just we don't even pay attention to how impressive it is to do all of that on skates. The point is that if Cejudo's coming back, it'd be like, okay, so I'm going to take this fight. No one really knows how tough this guy is because he's not been adequately promoted because he's just kind of sort of just now became who he is in the grand scheme of things. So it's like I got to take on this super difficult test, and I'm really not going to get paid for it because nobody knows who the guy is. You know, Chael says, Chael Sonnen that is, says, you know, you take the easiest fight for the most money. And he says that not to mean you take some guy that's ranked 30th. You take the fight that the public perceives to be the most difficult, so they want to watch it. You know, like at 35, if you're Petr Yan, you know, you fight Cruz or, you know, and Craig and I just did this thing on early stoppage where we talked about who are all the guys that should fight Petr Yan, right? And the list was Cruz, Garbrandt, Sterling, O'Malley, and there was one other guy. I can't remember who he was. But the point is that of that list, Cruz is probably the easiest fight, right? And he's the most well-known. So I want to talk a little bit about Deiveson Figueiredo's Twitter because I think that kind of transitions into his ability to promote. He was going in on the Megan O'Leary stuff before the fight. He was tweeting, you know, where's Megan at? You know, he took off on the Derek Lewis thing of where's Megan O'Leary's fine ass at? Like, he was having some fun with it. And then he came out and did the performance he did. Do you think he needs to lean into that? Do you think it was bad blood? Let's push aside whether or not you think it was a cool thing to do, because it sure as hell wasn't. But in terms of what his what his gimmick might be. Does tweeting at his opponents 40 minutes before the fight, is there something to that? What did you think about that in terms of promoting himself?
I didn't like it at all, and I don't like it for him at all. I think he'd be much better off as being kind of the no nonsense, I'm gonna knock you out kind of guy.
Okay.
I think it could be really exhausting to have another flyweight champion who's doing the cringe thing. So yeah, I'd really like him to just be more no nonsense and
I kind of knew you didn't like that. I had a feeling.
I mean, I just think it's really disrespectful to. I mean, Joey B was obviously really mad and kind of complained a lot after that first loss to Figueiredo not too long ago, and I think Figueiredo. I think Benavidez is kind of a legend. I think that was pretty disrespectful.
I agree. I mean, listen, we can get into the legend status of Benavidez another time, but I'm with you. I know where you're coming from because he's been in a lot of big fights. My only pushback to Benavidez would be he's kind of getting like the heroes celebration of like, you know, it feels like they threw a parade for Benavidez. And I mean, he got waxed twice by this guy and he's never won a belt. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't stand for a lot of great things. Doesn't mean he wasn't a great competitor over the years. I just think they rolled the red carpet out for him a little bit because of Megan O'Leary and not so much what his accolades would have deemed. Although, listen, the guy had a pretty clean record. He lost to DJ. You know, I think he lost to Cejudo. I mean, he didn't lose a lot in his career. So once upon a time, it seemed like Jack Hermansson had an outside chance for a title shot. He was looking sharp. So for him, he's looking to remind everybody of what he once was. For Gastelum, he's on a skid. Now listen, are his opponents in that skid studs? Yes. But is the loss a loss? Yes. He's looking to right the ship. Well, he didn't. He was taken out quick. Yeah. Cameron, I'm just going to say from the beginning, and you know, the thing I love about our show is that you are very analytical and very no-nonsense when it comes to fights. I'm a maniac, and I talk about things that have no relevance to fights. But I got to be honest. Kelvin Gastelum's haircut had me nervous before this fight. And I tweeted jokingly that he looked like, you know, some LA waiter trying to be an actor. He came out with half a man bun. He was definitely tempting the MMA gods, Cameron, with that haircut. Although people have had stranger haircuts and perform much better than that. What was this? Was this that Gastelum just didn't show up? Was it that Hermansson is wildly underrated? What happened here?
I think Gastelum probably came in overconfident. I mean, that throw he had before, that throw he had for the takedown was super impressive. Like, that took a lot of strength. I think he didn't expect Hermansson to have the prowess on the ground that he did, and that's kind of where he found himself in that trouble, got his leg stuck in there. And as for the haircut, I didn't actually hate it that much. I didn't think it was that bad. I think it just looked a little weird because it was like the ponytail was like going straight up, kind of. I think he could have done something different there, but it kind of looked like Samurai Jack or something like that, or like Tom Cruise from Last Samurai kind of thing.
There you go.
But I mean, Kelvin just got himself into trouble. I mean, he's a black belt himself as well. It's like, I think if you get your leg in that spot with a black belt, you're gonna get submitted. And I've been saying it for a while. I think Kelvin Gastelum belongs at welterweight. I think he looked too small in there. I mean, Hermansson looks huge. Maybe the size didn't play a factor in this fight, but I do think he should be more disciplined and cut that weight down to 170. I think he'd find a lot more success. But yeah, I mean, it's just tough. The run Kelvin's been on, and just try and see him fight again. It's getting a little sad.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's Adesanya, it's Till. I mean, and listen, the Adesanya fight was super close. The Till fight was super close. You know, he fought Jacare to a split decision. I think it's probably time to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Kelvin Gastelum fights to the level of his competition, and right to the level of his competition. And some nights it's enough, and other nights it's not. And some nights he'll catch someone like Bisping sleeping, and, you know, or he'll catch someone like, you know, I mean, there were people who made cases for him beating Israel Adesanya. And so, I mean, that's the top of the food chain right there. That's one of the best fighters in the world right now. But, you know, if you look at his resume, it's just so replete with split decisions. You know, we got a split over with Woodley, a split with Magny. You know, we talked about the split with Jacare. split with Till. To me, you're just not establishing yourself as, the dominant fighter in there. And I'm with you. I think it gets a lot more interesting at 170, but I can't wrap my head around what people think Kelvin Gastelum being in shape equates to. Because when the fight started, they were like, he looks like he's in tremendous shape. I'm like, this kid looks thick. I mean, he always looks thick.
I mean, it's kind of like the DC effect where DC's always going to be fat, but he's like in shape kind of fat.
Right.
And I just wonder what it'd be like if Kelvin really committed to losing weight and like just cutting down his frame. I think it's just the way he's been built up now is he can't get any lower than 186 pounds. I don't know how to explain it, but it looked like Hermansson was just much more muscular, much taller, longer. I mean, he had a 6-inch reach advantage. It was very clear. And it seems like in each fight, Kelvin's kind of getting more and more desperate the way he strikes. Like in this one, the one striking exchange they had, he cocked back a left hand and just threw it way over Hermansson's head. And in the Till fight, he just like stalled out and swinging power shots and got clinched. And it just seems like he can't follow a game plan, or he doesn't have the fight IQ to make adjustments in fights. And it's costing him because he has to keep fighting at top level guys. It's kind of getting frustrating, disappointing. It's like sad to watch Kelvin's decline.
He's in that weird situation, and he's not completely there yet. But we talked about with Paige Van Zandt. When your name outweighs your game, it's a problem because now your name is big enough to put you in there with killers, and all the things that you used to do that built your name. It's one of those things where it's like, we'll use basketball as the example, even just in a pickup sense. You reach a point where you get to a certain age, and you just say, I'm content to sit here and shoot jumpers. Yeah. I feel like Gastelum is like, it's really the epitome of just going through the motions. He knows what it takes to win these fights. He just hasn't either trained or doesn't have the desire to do it. Now, with all of that being said, let's be fair to the situation and say that Hermansson hit a technique on him. And not only are we dismissing Hermansson completely in what we're talking about because of who Kelvin Gastelum is, which is unfair to him, but, he hit him with a technique that you rarely see successfully done. And it was early. They were both dry. And, I mean, he really had a nice way of, he put the foot behind the leg to kind of keep, Gastelum from rolling. So Hermansson did a really, really clean submission, which deserves a lot of credit. But, Kelvin got caught. So does that mean that he's, we can completely, if this was a Metamoris or something, or if this was the EBI and Gastelum got caught, we wouldn't care. But it's because it's in an octagon. That's how we look at it. So I don't know. We beat too hard on Gastelum. And please, Cameron, for the love of God, say something about Jack Hermansson. The guy got a quick victory, and we're acting like he wasn't even in there.
Okay. I think we might be being a little too hard on Gastelum. I think if you run that fight back, he might actually have a good chance in that one. I still think it would be a close fight. And then as for Hermansson, I think Hermansson was impressive, but with such an maybe not impressive, but with such a fast win, it's hard to take much stock out of it. It's hard to get your stock to rise that much, And the fact that he was calling for the winner of Till versus Whitaker, I don't really understand why he would deserve that fight to be next in line, coming off a loss before this one, and then kind of a instant submission win against Gastelum. Kind of weird to think he's that far up the pecking order. I'd like to see him against like maybe the winner of Shabazian and Brunson, or if Romero and Hall ends up happening. I think Hermansson's still 2 more fights away from a title shot, and like as fast as the win was, we didn't get to see a lot from Hermansson. We didn't get to see him make adjustments from his last loss to Cannonier. We didn't get to see him strike with a boxer as polished as Gastelum. We didn't see his takedowns or his top control. It's just hard to take a lot from the win from Hermansson. I'm not trying to take credit away from him. It was a great win. I mean, well done, but it's just hard to know where he is skill-wise with the top of the division.
It is, and it's exacerbated by the fact that he has one of those resumes that's kind of all over the place. You know, he gets wins in the third against Talis Leitis. Mershart and Branch get taken out in the first round. Mershart might be a little too early in his career. Branch might be a little too late in his career. He goes the distance with Jacare. What do we have in Jacare? Then Cannonier sort of market corrects the situation. And then now Gastelum. So it's like you said, I mean, there's no one that we really feel confident about who they are to then say, you know, the person on that list I feel that I know the best is Jared Cannonier, and he lost to him. Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of like you said, it's one of those things where we can't take too much from it. We can't start throwing title shots and top 5, you know, opponents at him. We don't really know what we have.
And I'm not sure he beats any of those top guys except for maybe, I think he beats Till, but I think the rest of them beats Hermansson quite soundly. I think Romero, Whitaker, is Adesanya, obviously. I think Costa does terrible things to him.
Enrollment in the striking class at Tiger Muay Thai is going up, Cameron.
Oh, yeah.
Rafael Fiziev looked pretty impressive. I thought he got cute late, but he was feeling himself. He left a mark on this card. Do you see championship level skills in this guy? He defeated Marc Diakiese by unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. Or is he a guy, like if you're the UFC, are you going, man, we got a guy that can make a run here? Or do you just say to yourself, let's just put him in there with the right guys, have fun every time he's in there, and let that be the thing? He's the guy that lets us know that if the night's boring, he'll pick it up. Business will pick up when he's in there. Or do you see him making any noise in this division?
No, I don't see. I mean, I could see him cracking the top 15, maybe. I don't want to say top 10, but he's definitely one of those guys that's going to have exciting fights for every time he goes out there. I think he has tons of potential, but he is a little on the smaller side. He's stocky for sure, but he's a little shorter, not as long as some of the other guys he's going to end up facing. But I mean, he looked great. The kicking was phenomenal against someone like as good of a striker as Diakiese. Yeah, I'd like to see him fight. Like, I mean, a dream fight would be like Brad Riddell, just like a Muay Thai paradise. That would be a dream. But I think he can crack the top 15. I don't want to go as far as top 10 or championship potential. We just have to see how he defends against someone who's going to try and take him down.
Yeah, I liked that he, they said early on that when you're the striking coach at a gym, and it's a gym like that gym, that carries a lot of weight, and you can't just show up in the octagon and get waxed because you got to show your face back at your gym. So I tried to, as I watched the fight, sort of differentiate between what was that, which is just him having pride and wanting to represent himself well, and what if this was him, like, the vibe I got off him was that he's content to fight once a year, once every 2. I didn't see a guy who seemed like he wanted. Yeah. Although he did put a little bit of that into the space in the post-fight interview, it felt like he was just sort of, quote-unquote, defending his gym or defending his technique. And that's the vibe I got. So I don't even know that he's got it in him to want to go on this run. Maybe this fight will prompt that in him. But I'm with you. I mean, I think that he might crack the top 15. I think he might do just enough to have some shit to hang on the wall in his gym so people know he's for real. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think once he gets up to that kind of 15 to 20 range, he might face someone who's just going to drag him to the ground. Like, there are just the wrestlers at 155 are just going to be too much. I mean, he defended Diakiese's takedowns, but that's not anywhere near the wrestling prowess some of these guys have at lightweight.
Let's move on. Ariane Lipski, Cameron, the Queen, is back. Long may she reign. Ariane Lipski, who left KSW, the flyweight champ, was expected to do big things here in the UFC, but losses to JoJo Collarwood and Molly McCann, aforementioned Molly McCann, made us think maybe it's just different in the UFC. But she bounced back in her last fight, and then tonight she had an amazing performance. Is this a case that her level of competition is way down from her first 2 fights, and that's why she seems like she's going on a run? Is it a situation where I don't want to say she fell into a technique, but sometimes when we see knee bars, it's just the person being very opportunistic, the knee sticking out there, they grab it, and there we go. Do you think she worked towards this knee bar? She found it in a scramble, or do you – and talk to me about her overall.
Yeah, I think as for the knee bar, I think she kind of – it was kind of leg fighting. Carolina, that's her name. She was going for the submission, and she kind of lost her position, and just the knee kind of presented itself. I guess she was standing. She was kind of standing over top of Carolina. And as for Lipski overall, I think they definitely kind of teed this one up for it. Seems like it's just a massive step down in competition from what she's faced before. So I think I'd like to see her against someone good again, but I wonder if the UFC is trying to build her and get her name up there. It seems like 125 needs bigger names.
I agree. So then, I mean, she's a ways away as well, right? The KSW championship means nothing here because of the first two performances against Calderwood and McCann. I mean, listen, McCann just got beat. So then let me ask you a question. Does McCann losing to Santos give us an indication, and again, I hate to do MMA math, but does it give us an indication of where Lipski is in terms of Santos? Does it give us an indication of none of that? What can we take from that? I don't want to do the math because I know matchups are different, but we have to promote fighters or move them forward based on their wins and losses, right? So if Lipski lost to McCann and Santos defeated her, I mean, it's not as simple as just matching those two up. But are you – I guess I'm asking this question. I'm asking this question horribly. So let me ask it much more succinctly, which is to say, do you feel like they need to keep spoon-feeding Lipski fighters, or is she ready to challenge someone that's got some real skills?
I think trying to keep feeding her. I think she has potential. She's as far as 125-pound fighters go, she probably has some of the higher potential, but she definitely needs more experience. She definitely isn't ready for the more skilled fighters of that division.
Let's move on to Askarov and Alexandre Pantoja. This fight took on, or now takes on, much more significance based on what happened at the top of the card. Askarov train just keeps on rolling. He remains undefeated and is beginning to amass the type of resume it takes to get a title shot, particularly in a thin division. He beat Elliott last time out, and this time it's Pantoja. Pantoja had his moments, but Askarov was able to close the distance, keep a pace on him. I'll be a prisoner of the moment. Is Askarov ready for Figueiredo? I mean, no one may be ready for Figueiredo, which may be a separate conversation. But should he get the next shot? I know you talk about Moreno being the guy that seems like the more likely contender. Is Askarov a better matchup than Moreno, even if he hasn't quite earned it yet? What do you talk to me about Askarov, both in his performance here and what we could see moving forward?
I think the matchups for the title flyweight are pretty tricky right now. I think Moreno does deserve the title shot, the next one, just because of his last performance. And I think Askarov should be matched up with Alex Perez. And as far as the matchup of Figueiredo goes, I would say I think Askarov just has like this game plan and style that just wins fights. I mean, it's just controlling. It's just all over you constantly. And that just – the judges love to see that. But at the same time, Askarov did get dropped by Brandon Moreno in their fight. So I have questions about his chin holding up against Figueiredo. I do really want to see the Moreno-Figueiredo fight. I think that would be super close, super interesting. And I think Askarov's one fight away from that title shot where I think, say Moreno were to beat Figueiredo, I think Askarov could get the belt off Moreno, I think, if they fought again.
They went to a draw. So, I mean, obviously it's all there. It's all there for you. I mean, I think I'm with you. I think the Moreno has a little bit better potential to be promoted than Askarov does. Askarov has an interesting story. I don't know how well it can be promoted. Obviously the deafness and all that. But, so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm with you on Moreno. All right, let's move forward and get into these prelims. All right, Roman Dolidze defeated Khadis. Ibragimov. Give it to me. What is it?
Ibragimov.
Ibragimov. By TKO via strikes. What do you have here?
It was a very inactive first round until the knockout. I mean, not a lot thrown as a whole. But yeah, I thought Dolidze was going to win this one, anyways. And I think he was an ADCC champ for Asia, I believe. He's a really strong grappler, and it didn't end up having to go to the ground at all. He just landed the knee, and that was it. I like Dolidze as a prospect. He had the time off because of the USADA struggles, but now he's back, and I like to see him fight again. I like to see him back in there and keep going. He definitely has potential for the division, just because there aren't a lot of high-level grapplers who have clearly the power that he does. I think he could pose some problems, and he does have the size as well.
Let's move on. Grant Dawson defeated Narimani by unanimous decision, 30-26, 30-27, 29-27. Pretty impressive outing for Grant Dawson. What'd you take away from here?
Yeah, I like Grant Dawson a lot. I think he has top 10 potential. As long as he improves, I think his game plan style, like the way he wrestles, is similar to like a Kevin Lee on his come up, where he's gonna take you down, get right through your guard, go to your back, and try and choke you out. He nearly got the finish a couple times in those first 2 rounds against Narimani. But yeah, and his striking looked phenomenal. I mean, the improvements he made. He had almost no striking in his previous fight, and then he comes in here throwing leg kicks, outside leg kicks, inside leg kicks. You check the leg kick into a flying knee. He was throwing knees right up the middle. I think he has a long ways to go as far as improving his hands. But the sky's the limit for this guy. I think if he keeps improving the striking leaps and bounds, he can be a real problem with that wrestling and size. Because also at 145 pounds, he's huge. He night of the fight, after the fight, he said he was weighing more than welterweights do, and he weighed in 150 pounds. So I think if he can get time and cut that weight down to 45, he can give a lot of people some issues with his size and strength.
All right, moving on. Alvarez defeated Joe Duffy by submission via guillotine choke. It's been a long time since Joe Duffy beat Conor McGregor, so I'm pretty sure after the fight I saw that he decided to hang him up. He's out of there. So what's your takeaway from this fight? Is it just Alvarez caught Joe Duffy with 1 foot out of the cage, and that's what we saw here, or is there something with Alvarez?
Yeah, I think he just caught him. Wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. Dove in for a takedown, subbed him. Duffy didn't seem that, upset about it. Didn't seem that excited going into the cage. It was just a weird fight, really. It was. You don't see someone get submitted like that so easily. That kind of guillotine doesn't happen that often, where you just dive in for a takedown, doesn't even get the legs all the way wrapped around, just on the hands, just choking the neck as hard as he can. It was impressive for Alvarez, but I don't see much stock in him moving forward. He hasn't looked impressive in his career, and that was probably the most impressive win.
Brett Johns defeated Montel Jackson by unanimous decision, 29-28. It's all across the board. What'd you see here?
Yeah, I think Johns just employed the right game plan here. I think the constant pressure and constant shooting of takedowns kind of saved him from what would have, if he didn't have that game plan, I think he would have gotten knocked out. Just because that first round, Johns was all over him. In the 1 second they step away, Jackson lands a 1-2 and drops him. I think anything else from Johns would have gotten him into some real trouble with the hands of Jackson. And I'm still very high on both of these guys. I think it was just a bad matchup for Jackson. I think he has a lot of room to improve.
It's interesting because Jackson was at an 80% clip with his strikes. It wasn't like he had a low amount. He had 100 strikes and hit 80 of them. So, I'm with you. I think Johns figured out this is not the kid to stand with, and, cuts it down the distance and took to the ground. All right, Amir Albazi defeated Malcolm Gordon via submission via triangle choke in the very first round. What'd you see here?
Yeah, this one was shocking. I think Gordon just looked nervous, I guess. He didn't look like he knew it really. He looked pretty uncomfortable in the cage. I think it was just probably octagon jitters, but on the feet, Albazi was the one landing. And then as soon as he took him down, Gordon just it looked uncomfortable, to say the least. He was able to reverse, but then didn't really know what to do from there and got himself caught in the triangle, and that was it.
All right, Arman, Tsarukyan defeated Davi Ramos by unanimous decision. Couple 30-27s, 29-28. What'd you have here?
Yeah, Tsarukyan is very impressive. That striking he put on was extremely impressive, I think. And then he was able to get takedowns and sit in the guard of one of the best jiu-jitsu players in the UFC. I mean, it was just an all-around uber impressive performance for Tsarukyan. And I think at 23 years old, he has a ways to go at this division. I think he's been kind of dealt some tough matchups at the start, but I think if you start building him back up more slowly, I think he can make a serious climb up those rankings.
All right, Sergey Spivak defeated Carlos Felipe by majority decision, 29-28, 29-27, 29-27. What'd you have here?
I think Spivak just kind of did what he needed to. I think he started the first rounds much too slow. The first two rounds much too slowly. He kind of stayed at distance and didn't really press the issue. And then that third round, you could see he was on him like a wet blanket. I mean, the takedowns were there, the pressure was there. Nearly finished it. It was total dominant third round for Spivak. As for what's next for him, it's hard to book middling heavyweights. So yeah, I'll think about that one.
All right, let's talk about the star of the night. Who do you think really stole the show?
I'd say Tsarukyan. I think, or Fiziev or Tsarukyan for sure. Those two guys. I mean, Dolidze and Dawson were impressive too, but Tsarukyan, just like the improvements he made were to another level. And Fiziev just come out and put on a show like he did was amazing.
And obviously we got Figueiredo as well. Who are you most excited to see next?
I think Fiziev. I think he has a ton of potential matchups, ton of exciting matchups. You keep matching up with strikers, and you're going to keep getting phenomenal fights.
I think there's a way with some of these guys that you just have to lean into the fact, like, okay, this guy would not be as fun to watch in a kickboxing match as he is in an MMA match, because everything's on the table in an MMA match.
Yeah.
But you can do sort of an unofficial, with a wink in your eye, kickboxing match based on matchups. Put him in there with someone who's as inclined to go to the ground as he is, and then you can get a 4-ounce glove kickboxing match in a way. So yeah, I'm with you. I do want to see how they handle this Figueiredo thing. I'm excited about that. Yeah, who do you think overperformed?
I think Askarov. Alvarez too. I mean, Alvarez was pretty shocking, but I think Askarov overperformed just because, I mean, Pantoja is really good, and I think that did surprise me how well he was able to control Pantoja despite the crazy submissions, the crazy guard. Still was able to keep him on the ground, keep him against the fence, and land strikes on the feet too. I think Askarov was uber impressive.
Who do you think underperformed?
Gastelum. I mean, that was just disappointing to say, like extremely disappointing. Diakiese, I think, underperformed a little bit. I thought that fight would be a little closer than it was. And Duffy. I mean, Duffy just walked right into a submission.
All right, stat of the night was both Grant Dawson and Brett Johns had over 8 minutes of control time. I would be remiss if I did not mention the performances of the night, which was interesting. We got 4 on the Wednesday card, only 3 tonight, and I thought there was a couple of guys who deserved. People were talking about how Hermansson got snubbed on the performance of the night. So we got Figueiredo was performance of the night. Diakiese and Fiziev were the fight of the night, and Ariane Lipski was a performance bonus as well. I saw you react when I said Hermansson was a snub. Why do you think he wasn't a snub?
I feel like we're just like ragging on Hermansson
I know.
This whole recap, but I mean, I don't think you should get a sub for a fact. I don't think Lipski should get a sub or get a bonus. Rather, should get a bonus either. That's like both those submissions are just weird ones that your opponent kind of walks into. It's not like I mean, obviously it takes technique and skill, but it's not as impressive as say like Dolidze getting the knockout or Dawson totally dominating. Yeah, or even Tsarukyan. I mean, I just don't think that like a couple seconds into the fight getting a submission is more impressive than a full domination for 15 minutes.
Right. Makes sense. All right, let's talk about takeaways here because we've talked a lot about, you know, I hate this is a beat to death cliche, but we talk about crystal balls, right? Mm-hmm. If we talk about a year, 2 years from now, what would surprise you more? That Kelvin Gastelum is a completely irrelevant fighter, fighting on prelims, or that Figueiredo is, you know, 2 years into a run? Like, do you think that Figueiredo's ascension is more likely or Gastelum's fall?
I think I'd be more surprised. I think Gastelum's fall is more no. Figueiredo's rise is more likely. I think Figueiredo can win, can have some title defenses at flyweight. I think he can beat those like top 3, top 5 guys. I think he has a chance to do that. Gastelum, I mean, I don't know. It depends on who they match him up with. If they keep matching him up with top like 10 talent, maybe he keeps falling, but it's just based on that performance, it's hard to take a lot away from it. Because you know he is going to come back. He is going to try and fight again. It really just depends on the matchup, but I mean, he very well could just be not there and could end up just continue falling.
My interesting thing when it comes to Gastelum is he just seems like he's always been an underdog, right? He started off with, oh my God, why is this guy's name escaping me right now? I'm tough. But so he started off winning tough when people thought that he would not win tough. And then he said about having this career where he seems to beat guys you didn't think he was going to beat. So then when all that happens and now you're no longer an underdog and now people are like, okay, this guy's really got skills. He seems to not be quite there. I'm with you on 170. I don't think he can make it, but I
wish he could.
Yeah, right. I don't know quite what to make of him. I don't know if he's somebody like Johnny Hendricks, even though Johnny Hendricks got the belt and Gastelum never did, where we just can't figure out the weight. He doesn't fight the way we want him to fight, you know, and then he just kind of fades away. Next thing you know, I just never want to see Kelvin Gastelum popping up on BKFC cards and, you know, all that. But that's what we got, you know, in Hendricks. So I don't know.
I could see it. I could definitely see it.
It could happen, right? All right, any other takeaways?
I think flyweight title picture is back. I mean, it's exciting as ever. And I think the prospects on these fight night cards are kind of delivering. I think it's getting really exciting. Seeing all these guys come out of the woodwork and make a name for themselves.
And you know what? Let me give credit where credit's due, because I was somewhat critical of Dana White when all this started, all this Fight Island business and all this Apex business. But he is delivering good cards. He's delivering, you know, he's keeping the fighters safe. You know, you look at a situation like Figueiredo. I mean, the kid got COVID-19, got through it, retested, you know, by all accounts, unless, you know, I mean, nightmare scenario here for Dana White would be Joseph Benavidez getting COVID-19. But there's no way to prove that he got it from Figueiredo. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, like, he's in a scenario now where he is I thought that Dana was trying to be opportunistic. And he may have been. But in retrospect, I do feel like he's keeping these fighters active. He's keeping them paid. He's giving us content to watch while keeping everyone safe. So I think he deserves a lot more credit than he, A, initially got, and B, you know, he got a lot of pushback. So kudos to him. All right, guys, there you have it. Another Fight Night Picks recap show is in the books. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit us in the comments and listen to us on Spotify and iTunes. We'll see you next week. Peace.